We're going to make our creme anglaise from week 6 in baking arts. I'm just going to sort of give some ideas of what you can do with this creme anglaise. Creme anglaise is a dessert sauce. I want you to think of it kind of like tomato sauce in the culinary world. It's sort of a blank canvas that can get along with a lot of different things. You can also use this concept for ice cream making. Swap this for 50-50 milk and cream, and you can get a really nice vanilla ice cream base out of this if you've got an ice cream maker. So just by reducing the fat content a bit, it can really be delicious. It's a very simple thing to make, but it is also very easy to mess it up. This is a time-sensitive, slow and low, be patient item. So let's go over our ingredients. This is your number one most expensive ingredient in this recipe, a vanilla bean. I do not feel you need an entire vanilla bean for a 1 liter recipe. I would be okay with 1/4 of a vanilla bean, but I'm gonna go for it and give this one a lot of love and go for the full bean. They can be expensive, so you can use extract or paste here, and I would just add a teaspoon to this, or you can remove it completely and add different things, such as extracts of other flavors like rum or whatever you're looking for. So you can get very creative here, but I don't think it needs a full bean in total. Do reserve your beans. Also, do not discard the pod after using the seeds. I often store them in a bottle of vodka and just keep dunking them in the bottle of vodka, and then that vodka turns into an extract that I can use as it starts to get a little tinted from the beans. So you can get a lot more love out of the husk of your vanilla bean as well. I have my sugar here. It is quite a bit of sugar. Remember, this is a sauce, not to be really consumed as a soup. So I've got 170 grams of sugar here, my 1 liter of cream, and my 6 egg yolks separated. What I want to do is temper these ingredients together. So what that means is I'm going to slowly expose the temperature of one ingredient to the other. So what I'm going to do first is get my milk in my pot, or my cream. Again, if you want to make this into an ice cream base, you can use 50% cream and 50% milk just together in this pot and proceed as normal. I would chill it and then put it in my ice cream maker. I'm going to bring this up on low heat. The idea is I need to bring this entire mixture to pre-simmer, so just before it starts to boil. If I bring it to a full rolling boil, I run the risk of splitting my creme anglaise, and then I lose the strength from my eggs, the thickening quality of my eggs, because I have to strain out my curdled, overcooked eggs. The main problem is your eggs need delicate heat. So I'm going to initially get my cream up to temperature. So I want to see a little bit of motion on the surface and a little bit of steam. So I've got the max amount of heat pre-boil here. Then I'm going to slowly temper it into my egg mixture and then continually cook it. If I start with cold cream, blended all my ingredients together, and then commence cooking, I would still have the same result in the end, but it would take a lot more pot watching time, which is something I'm not a big fan of. So while I'm waiting for this cream to come up to temperature, I'm going to push it forward a bit so you can see it a bit better. I'm going to prepare my egg mixture. So what I want to do first is split my vanilla bean straight down the center. I'm using a paring knife. You want to cut it straight down the center, splitting it in two. Then you can open up the vanilla bean and you'll see all this black spots inside. That's the vanilla bean paste. I run my knife along it and you can see I can remove it. I'm going to take this paste and put it directly into my sugar. And do it with the other side of my bean. Now if I wanted to get more flavor from this into this, I could simmer my bean pod, but then I would contaminate it with milk. I want to keep this separate for my vodka bottle so I can make more extract from it. So I'm going to reserve that to the side. Taking my vanilla bean seeds here, I like to use the sugar to help break them up. So I rub them between my fingers here and just distribute them. You can see how many seeds I've got. Be careful on your recipes when you're, or your products when you're buying. Vanilla bean is often disguised with coffee grounds. So if your vanilla product has coffee listed, those are not vanilla seeds you are seeing. Okay, so my water has just come right to a bit of a boogie on top. It was just moving a little bit, and I can see a little steam on the surface. It's at the temperature where it's too hot for me to keep my finger in. So that's good for me to start adding my eggs to my sugar. If I add them too early to my sugar before my cream is warm, the sugar will cook the eggs like ceviche. So we don't want to add them too early. But now that my water or my cream is nice and hot, I can add them. I'm going to whisk this to a paste. Just like so. And then I'm going to take my hot cream and slowly temper the ingredients together. So I whisk and I slowly add cream. It's very important at the beginning to add a very small amount. If your bowl's spinning and it's driving you crazy, you can put a non-slip pad underneath. It's just important to go slow for the first couple additions. Then you can get a little bit heavier in the hand. I want to bring about half of this hot liquid into my eggs, and then I put my cream back on the heat, and I introduce my egg mixture into my remaining cream. Now we're going to switch our weapons. We are going to be switching to a wooden spoon. You have to use a wooden spoon for this because it's actually the way to see how thick my product is. You can see that when I dunk my spoon in, it's running off, it's translucent, it's not opaque at all. So I'm going to start cooking this. As I cook this, it'll slowly thicken up, but I have to watch my pot very carefully. I call this stirring consciously. I'm not just stirring in the center of the pot, because what's happening is the eggs are going to want to thicken, and they're going to thicken upon heat, and the heat is at the bottom, so it will stick to the bottom of the pot and not distribute throughout if I don't stir consciously. So I like to zigzag across my mixture around the side and repeat. Whatever pattern you develop to cover the entire pot, if you stick to the same habits and patterns, they'll only benefit your product. They will never harm it. So having a conscious way of stirring to make sure you cover the entirety of the pot is very important. Now, I know that I'm not thick yet because I still have a lot of translucity in my liquid, and I also see a very, very fine foam on the surface. It's really hard to see this little white film. While it's coming up to heat, you will notice that that film disappears. Those bubbles sort of dissipate. So that is a good sign that you're getting close to the final density. So if that's the case, and you have your heat high, you can turn your heat down. I'm on what would be medium low here. You do not want to go fast. The longer this takes, the better the anglaise, because we're trying to cook the eggs but have them in motion as well, giving them a velvet-like texture. Depending on how hot your cream is when you start, it can take up to 10 minutes of stirring time. So don't discourage if it feels like nothing is happening, because it will happen almost instantaneous when it's there. Just keep looking at the back of your spoon. If you need to fast forward the video and rewind it so you can see the density change, it's quite fine. It's hard to visually see unless you've got a nice wooden spoon. I like these dark wooden spoons too because they tend to show the film a lot better. Okay, so I think that was about under 5 minutes. You can see it's a big patience tester. You want to turn this up so much, but you have to resist it because we don't want to split our mixture. What I'm noticing now is that my mixture no longer splits when it's running off my spoon. I'm getting more of an even appearance. I'm going to push it a little bit more to get a little bit more opaque. If you see any white spots developing in your creme anglaise, you are overcooking it. So take it off the heat immediately. If you can see, my foam is gone. There might be a couple bubbles there, but that white film is now gone. I am seeing steam come off the surface. My hand is getting moist from it. So it's perfectly normal. You can see it's getting really thick, starting to hide the grain, the wood grain of my spoon. So I'm going to turn my heat down to the lowest setting or off at this point and use the residual heat in the pan just to push it a little bit. I like to pick it up, see that nice coating on it, nice and opaque. And I like to run my finger across the film, drawing a really nice defined line. I could push this a tad bit more, but I do suggest on your first attempt at creme anglaise to stop somewhere around here because it is very easy to overcook it. And just using the heat from the pan. I don't even have my element on at all. Gentle is of essence here. This is where the pastry and patience come together. See that really nice thick film. Okay, so I like this consistency here. They say in the book that it's supposed to resemble heavy cream. I like to say melted milkshake. You can see that line stays, does not reconnect. It's got a nice thickness to it. Now that my creme anglaise is ready, I'm going to strain it into some containers. You can do this into a bowl, but you want to make sure that the creme anglaise is covered on the surface so that you do not have a skin developing on top. So I'm just going to use my containers. When you spill, it's donations to the pastry gods. Okay. So I'm just going to put a lid on these and allow them to chill. They can take a couple hours. And then if I was going to be using this, it will thicken up into sort of like a pureed sauce. So it's going to be blank canvas to accompany other things, such as your meringues. This would go lovely on your bread pudding. It's pretty much endless possibilities. So I'm going to let these cool, and then I will use it in the plating of another item. Creme anglaise sauce.